Hey folks, welcome to the Underground Health Club. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Kasper. We have an exciting program today, but before we begin, as you can see on the counter here, we have our sponsor, MuscleGoat Protein. For everyone out there who's into protein, the cleanest, tastiest protein on the planet, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry protein, fantastic. And folks, anyone out there who wants to get strong, this is a great product. Again, let's thank MuscleGoat.com for sponsoring the Underground Health Club. And let me slide these out of the way so we can begin our program. And there we go. Okay, very good, out of the way. Anyway, my guest today is Mr. Cesar Hernandez, who is a principal at Los Padillas Elementary School. And sir, welcome to the Underground Health Club.
How you doing, Dr. Joe?
Great to have you. Great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I want the audience to get to know you. So you're an educator, and you're proud to be an educator, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
How did you get, how did you get started, like, to want to be an educator or a principal? How did that all start for you, sir?
It's been a long, road to go into. My whole family is a family of educators. My mom, my dad. I have 6 brothers and sisters who are teachers.
Oh, wow.
And so eventually I became an educator myself. I've been in the schools my whole life. And now in APS I've been for the last 24 years. Okay. So I've been in different areas of the system, but I've been in APS for 24 years.
So let me ask you, so I guess the family business became education.
It's the family tradition, yes.
Oh, okay.
And we help each other. We call each other even now, my brothers and sisters around the country. I call my sister in Phoenix, my brother in California, and ask for advice in many situations that we have in the schools.
That's great. So now, when you were, I guess you were in school, did you get your education here? Because I do sense a little accent over there.
No, sir. I did all the way to my bachelor's in Mexico.
Okay.
Then I moved to the United States, and I did the rest of my education at UNM.
So you're completely bilingual?
As far as it goes, it's a process. Being bilingual is a process. You can always get better. It's like sports. You always get better as you keep practicing.
Right.
Yes.
So I think it's such an advantage to be able to speak 2 languages fluently, which obviously you do, so you can relate to the children.
Yes, sir.
And you can, and also with the parents.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a great thing.
It's been interesting for me because I was not involved or exposed to any bilingual education or any sort of bilingualism until I was 21.
Oh, interesting.
So that's when I learned English, and I keep learning English. But knowing and going through the growing pains of learning a second language makes me understand how many of our students in our school district go through, and how difficult it is sometimes for them to have the necessary vocabulary to acquire their education.
That makes sense. Now, obviously, my accent, I'm from New York City originally, and sometimes people go, "Do you speak English?" And I said, "I'm not sure." Because of the thick accent I have. So you grew up in Mexico, and then you decided to become an educator because of your family. I think family influence is so critically important because you're still close to your parents.
Yes, sir.
Which is great, and not everyone has 2 parents.
It's something that I've seen more and more in some of our families, the families that I serve now. Right. Many times there's no mom, there's no dad, or both. And sometimes the grandparents are supporting the students. So it's important for us to provide a holistic approach to the students so we can somehow give them the necessary elements that they need to feel successful and to support them so they can be successful in school.
That's so important. So I find it fascinating that it's obviously, the way you talk, you really care about your job. And we live in a world today where a lot of people have a job, they don't always care, they don't always like it. You like what you do, or you love what you do, it's obvious.
Hey, I go every day to school, and every day, to me, it's not how much what you say to the kids, it's how you make them feel.
Yes.
And,
yes,
I see them coming, I see them trying to hug me, I never turn away any hugs. We have to be careful with the little ones. We have to, but I always try to make them feel welcome to the school. I try to make the families feel welcome to the school because it's their school, it's their materials. Everything belongs to them. Right. Nothing is mine. And if they feel welcome, we are trying to emphasize a love for learning they last a whole life. And so hopefully when they get into upper grades, they can do much better.
Now, it's interesting because my favorite teacher of all time, because I want to talk about teaching in a minute, his name is George Paglia. He was my 5th grade teacher from PS 36 in Staten Island, if you're watching. Okay. And this guy, all my years of elementary, middle school, high school, college, master's, PhD, all this stuff, still the best educator I ever had in my life, hands down. Nobody better.
Let me try to reverse this. You're supposed to be asking me a question, but let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Why? Why you believe he was the best educator?
It's not even a second thought, because he so much cared. He put me in my place, and he used to call me Kasperini, which is kind of funny. and he did, and because of him, I used to win Reader's Elitist contest, all these things I would do well in, because he believed, he goes, you could do this. He wouldn't let me fail. I mean, he wouldn't let me fail. And there was other people that I know who loved him, loved the guy. He was just great, and it's just funny how you remember that. I remember it also years later, I put him in my master's thesis. I dedicated part of that to him, and I said, if I ever get married one day, will you come? And he goes, yes, me and my wife will come to your wedding. Even though I'm divorced now, he came, and him and his wife were the greatest dancers you've ever seen. I mean, unbelievable, and that stays with you. Isn't that nice?
All of us have that special person that we believe that they care.
Yes.
As easy as, how are you doing in the morning? How's your family doing? Even if you don't know a lot about the student, that makes them feel like you are caring about them. And that in turn is gonna provide them with a safe place for becoming educated. And so that happens to you, that happens to all of us.
Yes.
That we have one special person that we believe that they care because they make sure that you are provided.
Yes, that's so important. So, obviously you were a teacher before you were a principal. That's kind of like the standard. You don't come out of the box or the womb and become a principal. It takes time.
No, sir. I've been, like I said, 24 years at APS. I started as an educational assistant at Dolores Gonzalez Elementary back in 93, 94. Okay. And after that, I started scaling the ranks. And I was a dance teacher, I was a Spanish teacher, technology teacher, activities director in high school. I also been 12 years in elementary school, 5 years in middle school, and 6 years in high school. And now I graduated, I go back to elementary. I went back to elementary now.
So you've done the whole gamut. It's interesting that as an educator, you've done elementary, middle, high school. So you've done them all as an educator, as a teacher, besides, and now you're principal. I think that's a great thing that you're so well diverse.
Yes, if you ask me, if I would have prepared a good principal, I would have given the experience of seeing the scope and sequence and content of elementary, middle, and high school, and see the whole range of all the content that the students have to master to be successful preparing for college.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, we just got to know from the producer, we got to go to a commercial.
Sure.
Will you be back when we come back?
Not a problem.
You promise?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Folks, we'll be back after this commercial break. Thank you.
Gecko's Bar and Tapas, a proud supporter of ProView Networks. It's been a fan-favorite spot for food lovers and sports fans. With not one, but two great locations, including outdoor patio, an atmosphere you won't want to miss. Gecko's, off Academy and in Nob Hill.
Wondering if you can afford the ring of her dreams? At Crown Jewels & Coin, we actually double the diamond for what you would pay at a chain store. Trade in your old jewelry towards GIA certified diamonds. Choose from a large selection of settings featuring Veragio. We can customize a design and offer no credit check 2-year interest-free financing. Get more than you ever thought possible here at Albuquerque's family jeweler for over 50 years. Crown Jewels & Coin, for all you treasure. 3248 San Mateo at Kruger's Corner.
Don't forget, every ProView Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewnetworks.com to buy your DVD today. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili, breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Underground Health Club. I have my guest, Principal Cesar Hernandez. You're still here?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Anyway, so we were talking about before break, we got into why teaching is important, because you mentioned how you taught at a number of places before becoming a principal. But I guess here's my question for you, sir, is I guess you don't often see, does a teacher, let's say, teach at a school there for 20 or 30 years and then become their principal? You never see that. How come? You get what I'm saying?
Yes. You know what? When you start finding solutions to a lot of the problems happening in the school, all the way for finances, investigating more about programs, maybe a new technology, all of a sudden you start becoming a leader. Right. And all of a sudden you start fixing problems here and there. And that's eventually what the road that my wife and I took together, right. And we became administrators that way. After so many years of being classroom teachers, we saw that we could influentiate a larger amount of students if we became administrators that stayed at the classroom level. We always had 20 to 30 kids. Right. Over here, when I was at Albuquerque, I had 2,000 kids. Right. So it's different. And then you start going at more levels, start presenting in conferences, start having radio shows, TV shows, and then it becomes bigger. And you discover that way you can reach more students. Start changing parameters, rules, regulations, creating new programs that you believe benefits a larger part of the community, and then that's how you get involved with being an administrator.
So it's interesting because, in other words, so normally, like I was saying, the person who's a teacher at a school for 20 years doesn't become that school's principal because they don't have enough experience.
Sometimes it could be a preference, or it could feel comfortable staying on one place, knowing that you know your realm and know what you're teaching. And yeah, we have a lot of teachers that stay there for a lot of years. Many of us, again, jump into being something else within the district. Right.
It's almost like, I'll use a sports analogy. Most of the time when I'll use baseball because I know it very well. When a great baseball player retires, the next year he's not becoming the team manager. And almost never, it's happened a few times. But it usually is a disaster. Yes. Right, because you haven't experienced that part of your life. Yeah. So great point. So with education, I guess, here's the question is, in today's world, it's a very complicated world.
Yes.
With social media, Facebook, yes. Twitter, Instagram, what was the other one? Snapchat. There's so many. And I guess the thing is this, every kid has an iPhone.
Yes.
Does a 6-year-old kid need an iPhone?
It depends who you ask.
Them, yes.
It depends who you ask, because sometimes the parents need to locate where the kids are. Right. There's an app for that. Sometimes the kids need an answer on a work problem. There's an app for that. So it can be wonderful tools if we incorporate them the right way. Right. It can be very damaging, especially at the middle and high school level, when kids post stuff that they're not supposed to,
yes.
And it never goes away.
That's the problem.
And you cannot do anything about it.
It's interesting. There was a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm bringing this up. His name is Josh Hader, which is kind of interesting, that name. He's a left-handed pitcher, throws 100 miles an hour. And when he was 17 in high school, he posted something not too good. Mm-hmm. And during the playoffs, 7-8 years later, they brought it back. And he goes, I'm not 17 anymore. I'm sorry it happened. But he goes, that's not me now. Yeah. But it still haunts him.
Yep. And that happens to all these kids. They don't understand. They believe that this personal device is personal, and it's not. It's a window to the world.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very true. So it's different, in the elementary compared to the middle and the high school. But the high school teachers, they have so much to contend with because of the phones and middle school with the hormones and so many things. So you've worked in all those areas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And obviously you don't have any favorites. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But
no.
but the funny thing is everyone has its purpose. Yes. Okay. And you as an educator, okay, now, and you're a principal, when you speak to your teachers, okay, how important is for you as an administrator to really make sure that your teachers are on board with you and your mission?
I think it's important to to explain the why, not just to your teachers, to the whole community, to your students. Once they know why you're establishing the programming that you are establishing in your school, pursuing some areas of the content more than others, if you will, it's a lot easier for them to understand. To me, transparency is the best way to do these things. In education, sometimes we tell the students and the teachers, we have the content, we have the standards, and everything is there, but if they don't understand them, if they feel like it's in a cloud out there, then they're always uncertain about have I done enough or have I finished?
Yes.
So sometimes it's better that you have a beginning and an end to everything and explain to them, this is what we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, and it's going to take us this long, almost like a SMART goal in education.
Yes.
It's better when the students and the community understand that, because then my dad used to tell me, when people know what you're doing and you are doing it because they can see you're doing it, you don't have to explain anything. Right. You don't have to explain anything. The minute that you're not doing it, that's when they start asking you, what are you doing?
Right,
what are you doing?
right.
And then you have to explain, well, I was doing it because, no, then you did it wrong. You have to explain the why first.
Right.
And then you start the process. So it is important that the students have a buy-in, that the parents have a buy-in, because if you start closing the circle around the students, that's one thing that I notice in our communities. The separation sometimes between the parents and the teachers, and it doesn't have to be that way. If you have a good communication with the parents or whomever the tutors or guardians are, then the students have no choice but to comply with the rules and regulations of the school.
Yes.
And I usually tell the kids, just like in sports, it's almost the same thing. I tell the kids, 3 kids will take you all the way to college. First, be present, be there.
Right.
Don't be absent. Then participate. Not all the time, but once in a while, participate in the class. Let the teacher know that you're awake, that you are understanding.
Yep.
And the last one is do your work, whether it's homework or classwork. Finish those 3 things. I tell them, that's the good student game that you're playing, and it will take you all the way to college.
You're right, because it's interesting, because I know I wasn't a great student in high school. I wasn't. And I found out because I couldn't see the board. I needed contact lenses. So I wore glasses like in the 5th grade, and in part-time in middle school, my eyes were getting bad, and I couldn't see the board. So when I got contact lenses my senior year of high school, my grades started going back up. But I wasn't that smart, so I always pushed. Never missed homework, did study the best I could, but I knew somehow, some way, those habits would help me later in life.
And that's exactly what it is. It's just habits. If we start now in education in this state, now we have in my school a 3-year-old program and a 4-year-old program. And those kids absorb everything that you want to give them. So if you just start structuring their day in a way that they get in the habit or doing this homework, games, sports, maybe having dinner with the family, they will grow up like that, and they will get used to that same routine. But if you just let them loose, and they start learning just from playing the video games or doing something else, then it's not productive.
Wow. Now listen, producer said we got to go to commercial again.
All right.
But we're going to touch on this topic again. This is important stuff. Folks, we'll be right back with Principal Cesar Hernandez.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Folks, we're back with the final segment of Underground Health Club with Principal Cesar Hernandez.
How you doing?
From Los Padillas Elementary School. So when we last left on the commercial break, you were mentioning about young children, 3 and 4 years old, having structure.
It is important that they understand a process of learning.
Yes.
And the process of learning doesn't always involve going home and playing video games all afternoon. It used to be, when you and I were younger, that it was hard to get us in from playing outside.
Yes.
Now parents are fighting to kick the kids out, into the open, into the wild, if you will, and doing something. So if we start with the little ones and we tell them, look, you can structure your day like this. And on a 3-year-old program, standards from Focus, that is the state curriculum that we're following, we learn through playing. And so the playing involves going outdoors. My students have several times during the day an outside time. They have their own little playground where they exercise, following as much as possible the natural way we used to, with trees and valleys,
yes.
So all that. And they also structure the social, emotional skills they need to have to be able to function well. But if we structure their time through the day, it's going to be very important for later on for them to have a schedule, a calendar, something where they have space for homework, for reading, for playing outside, for sports, for all that.
I agree. Now, it's interesting, speaking of sports, okay, I want to get on this. Sports and education, okay? It's interesting that in our world, how they say student athletes, okay? And I know personally some people who, from my day, who were in college, didn't take the courses they should have, never made it to the major leagues, but they got passed through. That's kind of sad, isn't it?
It is. Being a student athlete, and again, it's important that we start early. Early with these students, start developing those gross and fine motor skills, because you never know when a student is going to be a wonder in a particular area of the realm of sports. And then it's very important that we emphasize how is first a student and then an athlete.
Yes.
They have to be able to comply with the rules and regulations of the school or the district or the state, so they can compete later on at college or professional level.
Right.
It happens many times, and many times it's ignorance, many times it's malicious, many times they try to find the quickest way to succeed, if you call it that way.
Yes, yes.
But it's not always honorable, and the kids learn that if we adults teach them that. Sometimes it's people involved with education, some people it's outside education, sometimes it's business, but we have to make sure that we respect the natural growth of a student athlete. And I've been in middle school, I've been in high school. I know that sometimes the students, it was always very important for us administrators to hold that reward, if you will, of having sports for these students. If you do well, if you comply, and it's teaching them more than that. The best teachers I ever had in my life in education had been coaches before. They have a special way to talk to the students, and the students follow them, follow what they tell them. It kind of, again, they get used to. If they see you as a coach, later on you try to tell them something about life, they still feel that as a coach.
Yes.
And they do it.
It's interesting. And that's very, very important. I just think that when a student, let's say, doesn't do their homework, and the parent says, you can't play that sport, the coach has to say, yeah, and comply.
Yes.
Now, if the kid averages 30 points a game in basketball, what happens sometimes, they let him play anyway because they agree.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Teach the lesson.
Again, some of the best teachers I had were coaches. And when you have a system, and I did it when I was in high school, where the coach, instead of doing what you said, they say, okay, if he's not performing in your classroom, you have to tell me right away, and I'll come and give him a conversation.
I agree.
And sometimes it wasn't just them. They said, Mr. Hernandez, can you please go with me? So now it was me and the coach talking to the student along with the teacher and sometimes even the parent.
Excellent.
And so
That's
when
good.
you close that circle, the kid has no choice.
Yes, I agree.
Again, you're sending all, it's like when these kids don't start performing well in school, it's like they're really sick, and we used to call it the ICU approach, where you bring all the experts and try to say, come on, how do we help you?
Right.
We're not going to punish you, but how do we help you? You have no choice. You have to do the work to be able to perform.
I like that. So let's talk about Los Padillas Elementary School.
Sure.
Now, rumor has it that this school is on its way up. Is that a fact, sir?
That's a fact, sir.
How is that a fact?
Many indicators. First of all, everybody expects us to not even have students at the beginning of this school year. You know, since we were designated as an MRI school, therefore in the state that they were scheduled to be closed by the State Department of Education, nobody expects us to even have students. Guess what? We have more than 30 students versus the numbers last year. We had to, on the first day, my second grade class grew to 35 kids. I had to split it and bring another teacher.
Right.
And we are keeping having more kids there. Why? The why is because people are listening to the change on the programming that we did. We implemented a 50-50 dual language program. That's not because somebody had the idea. The district went and did several community meetings and asked the parents, we're going to save Los Padillas. We are going to be keeping Los Padillas open. How do you want Los Padillas to look like? And the community told them, there's three big things that they wanted. It was become a community school, to have a strong dual language program, and to use our sanctuary. There's a natural resource that we have attached to the school. It's a part of the bosque that we have it, included with a small lake. We have different bios throughout that area that belongs to our school. It's unique. Not many schools in our district, actually, I don't know if we're the only one that have a space like that. It's an open space that we use and utilize for science and social studies and just community involvement. So that's another indicator. The community involvement, we used to have at Los Padillas almost no parents coming to the school. Now we have a group of 16 moms that come every single day and participate and volunteer at the school. On Wednesdays, they're there from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon taking parenting classes, cooking classes, ESL, GED in both languages, Spanish and English, at the same time in the same classroom with a bilingual teacher. So in terms of scores, we used to be an F school for so many years. Last year we got a C. So that's a huge improvement.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Huge improvement. This year, hopefully, if we minimum of a C, that will take us out of the MRI status. And our school will be like any other school, no longer in danger of being closed by the State Department of Education. In terms of scores, we are testing our kids frequently, very frequently, and our scores increments have seen by people that they want to see them, but we have all those scores. Based on these scores, then we plan instruction in this classroom. So there's many indicators of how our school is doing better within itself and within the community.
Well, I want to say this. You are doing a phenomenal job. And I want to keep talking, but we actually have to end the show.
Okay.
No, but I am so proud of what you are doing. I'm commending you, all the educators at your school, all the parents, the students. You should be really proud.
I am.
And I appreciate you coming on the show, Mr.
Thank you,
Hernandez.
Dr. Joe.
You did fantastic. I mean, your school is going great places, and I really appreciate having you. Folks, Mr. Cesar Hernandez, principal at Los Padillas Elementary School. Absolutely phenomenal job what you're doing, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And folks, we're going to end the show in a second. We do want to thank our sponsor, MuscleGoat Protein, www.musclegoat.com. For the best protein, the cleanest protein on the planet. No cows on the property. We even feed our goats apple cider vinegar. So if you need good protein powder for you or your family, we got it right here at MuscleGoat.com. On that note, folks, it's time to end the show. We'll see you on the next episode. And remember, your health is your wealth. Never, ever forget it. I'm Dr. Joe Kasper. Bye now.